You can imagine that. Like, somebody asked me for a portfolio, I say, maybe we're not the best business for you, because I hung my hat on doing this professionally for the last 9 years, and what I made for somebody else, you might hate. So why would I show you anybody else's work? Just trust that I'm no bullshit.
Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Ground Up Podcast. My name is Matt Walton, here with my co-host Matt Huber. Matt, how you doing today, man?
Doing good. I'm looking forward to tomorrow. I have got a tea time at 2 o'clock, and I'm excited to get out on there. Justin, I know you're a golfer too. We'll probably maybe talk a little bit about golf. Yeah. Matt, like you and I, also is a father of multiple kids. He's got a house full of young boys. And one of the things I do have afforded to me that he has not yet been able to grasp was the ability for me to find about 4 to 5 hours a week. I get out on the course once a week, just to kind of separate myself from that. And so every time I say it, Matt gets a little twinge on his face because there's a little bit of jealousy there, but he'll get there one day when he grows up.
I can, I want to keep my head on my shoulders. With my wife here, I can't leave my 3 kids for 5 hours just to go hit the golf ball.
There's a hack.
What you gotta do is just get sponsored, be a sponsored athlete like Mr. Justin Abrams here, and then they can pay you to play golf, and then now you can tell her, like, hey, babe, it's for the money. You know?
Well, I mean, I'd have to start hitting under 100. All right. So
he didn't say he's good. We'll figure out if he's good or not.
That's
but
right.
I don't know if being
right.
sponsored has to do with being good. I mean, I've seen these guys, those like Bob Does Sport guys. They're not really good at golf, but they get paid a lot to play. So, Justin,
it's all about how you play.
Buddy?
I'm doing great, guys. I'm doing great. I also have a 2 p.m. tomorrow. But the hack is you got to get on the course, walk up to be first at the tee.
Yeah.
And so my first 2 hours of my day, I play in the early morning, just as the sun is rising. The first 2 hours, everybody's still sleeping. Yeah. So that cuts the time domain in half, and I really don't have to navigate that much.
Yeah, I tell my wife that too. She doesn't get it. She was like, "Oh, you're there all day." Like, most of the time, it's not us actually playing, waiting for other people to play to get out of the ways, and then we can go and play. And the other half of the time, I'm trying to find my ball. So that's
I get it.
How it works out.
I get it.
Awesome. Nice to have you on the podcast, Justin.
Thanks,
I appreciate it. And so we're talking a little bit before this. You, the CEO of Cause of a Kind. Tell us a little bit about that business.
Yeah, Cause of a Kind. We build software and websites for you. I build software and websites for individuals that are either aspiring founders, bootstrapping founders, enterprises of all different sizes. I help businesses either modernize legacy software, build greenfield projects. I build lots and lots of startups. I'm industry agnostic. I'm stack agnostic. My goal is to have my business solve your business's problem, and I deploy the technology solution that's most appropriate for you to scale.
Now, are you actually in and doing the coding yourself, or
I'm not an engineer. I'm a salesman. I'm the guy that sells you your dream and the ability to, get forward to extraordinary. But my business partner and best friend is our chief technology officer, chief architect. He is the magic behind Cause of a Kind, and I have a team of about 9 guys right now. We try to be centralized right here in the States. I solve American problems with American talent. But yeah, I got a nice lean team. We do specifically specialize in engineering, and rightfully so. But I do deploy the rest of my skill set, which is typically in the marketing stack. And I'm omni-channel marketer by trade and by profession. But I've also spent my entire career in client services and customer success. So that's a big part of our program and our project management ethos and software delivery specialty. And so kind of a full spectrum, but we niche on engineering.
So you work with you said your best friend here, and Matt, been working together for a little while. He's grown on me a little bit over time here, but
I wish I could say the same.
Yeah, I get it.
But no, so I mean, like, how do you guys? How does it work? I mean, obviously, your best friend in here. Sometimes you have disputes. Sometimes you have disagreements, right? How do you guys work it out?
You want to know what's funny? I can honestly say I'm no bullshit in every sense of the word. It's literally spattered on the Cause of a Kind website. Mike is my best friend. I've never even had an argument with him. I've never had a quarrel. I've never had an argument. I've never been angry. For some reason, the magic was born when we were 15 years old. We met at a local rock climbing gym. We still climb together to this day. It's probably at the core of our life together. And we built a relationship based on quite literally trust fall. This guy had my back, and it was all in a relationship rooted in fun, and we have a nice big circle of friends around us that we've maintained since then, and it has absolutely nothing to do with ego. He's a master of his domain. I'm pretty good at my shit too, and so together there's a lot of trust in there. We both have a different idea of maybe what success looks like. We're both in this business maybe for some shared reasons, but we both want different things out of our lives. We have different lifestyles, we have different responsibilities, different scenarios. scenarios. We both have families, but those kind of have different images on them too. So it really is about just giving your partner the freedom to do their thing. I trust him implicitly. He represents me when I'm on a call with a customer or a team member, or we're trying to drive towards the right thing for the business, and likewise. And I think just that general implicit trust that's built on a lifetime of straight up friends first, that truly has been a true north for us.
Let me ask you this question. I mean, and not to create strife where there is none, but
sure.
If there's a disagreement, and I hope there are, like, not arguments, but disagreements of opinion, right? You said he's a different guy with different background, different things he's running towards or running away from. Who makes the final decision?
It's a good question. We have a very simple code here that actually works. And if it's not a hard yes, it's a hell no. And so there is no dispute of decision. If it's not a unanimous yes, there is no deal breaker. We have no third party that's participating. If it is not a hell yes, unanimously is a hard no. Now, hard no doesn't mean a no forever. Hard no could mean it's just not right for us for right now. And sometimes it's a little bit uncomfortable to not be a hell yes. Sometimes it's like I could be super passionate about doing something. It's usually about deploying cash or making some swag or doing something that like maybe was irresponsible for the business to be doing right now, taking on a type of a customer, going to an event, spending money on travel for no reason. Doing something that likely has to do with finances is typically where most businesses kind of go their separate ways as far as decision making. Sometimes it has to do with what's the vision of the brand, but we're super aligned on what the vision of the brand is. That's one of the things that like we have no dispute on at all. But it typically has to do with like, what do I think as a marketer we should be spending money on to attract new business or double down in areas that are valuable. And for him, who is absolutely not a salesman, not a marketer, he's just looking at the science of the equation. Is that a responsible thing? If we agree, beautiful. If we don't agree, typically it's one of us just, you got to relinquish.
Yeah, I'd say, does that same process work for you and your wife in your marriage? Is the same process?
It's absolutely not the same process.
Okay.
Which is really interesting.
Yeah, and I say that because my wife and I are both, I would say, very strong-minded, opinionated people. One of the reasons why I believe Matt and I work so well together is because Matt and I, we've got probably a stronger. I believe in things harder, I would say, than Matt does at certain things. And so a lot of times Matt kind of takes the same approach my wife and I take in this, is that if I believe in something strongly and he's not very passionate about it, he's like, okay, just do it. Now, he trusts my ability to execute and my ability to deliver, and I think that's really what matters. And my wife and I have the same thing. You know, my family might look at my wife and say, she's the boss. Other people might look at it and say, I'm the boss. But really, it's just who's the boss who feels more passionate about that topic, who kind of does that. There is no put the foot down, we're going to do it my way or the highway scenario, not with me and Matt and not with me and my wife. But that's kind of, I think, the dynamic we've had. Do you agree with that, Matt? Is that the same assessment you have? We never really talked about that.
Yeah, no, when we make decisions, we know, it comes down to trust, honestly. It comes down to knowing, like, hey, Matt has my best interest and the business's best interest, and we all work towards the same goal. So I know that if he's doing something, the decision he makes is going to be in our best interest. He's not looking, we're not greedy people. We're not trying to screw someone over to get some money. We understand that about each other and where we're at. So it's more of just, if Matt's got a decision he wants to make, and maybe I'm not a part of it necessarily, but I'm like, all right, well, Matt will take care of us and make sure it's done the right thing. And I think he feels the same way about me. So that's really what it comes down to.
So let me ask you this, Justin. One of the things you talked about was solving American problems with American people. And one of the things that Matt and I have been running towards is we've been adding a team of developers ourselves, a much junior version of what you have today. And one of the big challenges we had, because we don't have a chief technology officer, we don't have a guy who thinks like a technology guy, we don't have a guy who thinks like a developer. We have two guys that come from more of a sales, background type thing. And one of our biggest challenges is not just who to hire, but how to hire, and then more importantly, how to speak to them. Any advice as a sales guy who speaks to a team full of development people? What advice could you share with us?
Yeah, well, one of the reasons why I double down so heavily in American problems solved by American talent is because one of the hardest things to do is take a non-technical individual and translate that to a technologist. And so that typically becomes a bottleneck. And folks that I'm dealing with, let's just take like the startup community or bootstrap founder, you're quite literally taking maybe your bonus check from work or your life savings or leveraging your home or doing something super sketchy because you believe in whatever you have in your head is going to work. And so my responsibility is to not make any mistakes with that along the way. That's a big level of trust to get somebody off the street, trust you with their idea, and get it to market. One of the craziest things that I've seen in my history, I've been doing this for 9 years professionally with Cause of a Kind at this point, is the willingness for folks to think I'm going to conserve that cash by going maybe overseas. There's this, exploitation of wage. And I have no problem with talent density. If you're extremely talented, I don't care where you live, right? So that's a big point of this. If you have extreme talent, your dollar, your salary, your hourly reflects that. Doesn't matter where you live. And so what I'm really aiming to do is solve that problem as responsibly as I possibly can. And how many times do you see people that are trying to do some wage exploitation end up spending quadruple the amount in back and forth, too much team, too much saturation, too much redundancy, all sorts of soft skills trying to do that translative, too much money in project management, too much timeline to market, and all of this gets bloated. The way that I do this is you get one extremely talented full stack individual and one software delivery manager. And that duo is responsible for taking your idea from zero to market. And so I've just shortcutted this entirely. I say, instead of worrying about getting a team and trying to translate your idea over time, could be a world away, I'm right here in your backyard. I'm giving you individuals that left the marquee places of the world. Call it a Netflix, call it an Amazon, call it Apple. They didn't want to work on the same project for the rest of their life. They want to work on as many different creative outlets as they possibly can, which is why they come to a software startup studio, which is what we are. And you can work on 50 different projects in a year. That's exciting to an engineer. It's exciting to somebody who's in construction. I don't want to build one house forever. I want to build houses, many of them. And that's exciting for people that are just in that builder mindset. So that's really what we do. I'm focused on talent density. I'm not necessarily the cheap equation at all, but I am the one that is going to guarantee you zero to market. Most organizations can't really guarantee that. They guarantee a labor force is going to descend and do their best. I don't really worry about doing the best. That's implied. I worry about getting you from zero to market without sacrificing the rest of the equation. It could be your sanity, it could be your home.
Now, I don't think you take on every single project that comes your way.
Definitely not.
So how do you guys determine which projects you take on and which ones you don't? Because you can't guarantee zero to market if it's a crap idea.
Yeah, you know what? It's there's a big spectrum that has to take into consideration here. I'm talking to somebody on the other side of this conversation. I do more disqualification in my sales process than qualification. It's definitely a sales strategy, especially when you start getting into a more comfortable mindset of being a salesman. I'm a career salesman. I want to detract you as much as I possibly can so that you just walk into this deal and we shake hands and this is right for you. But along the way, I also reserve the responsibility and the right to say, hey, I don't think that we're the right shop. We're not aligned on values. We're not aligned on pillars. And when I think about like the three things that I can really bring to a business, it's speed, it's quality, and it's constancy. And so for me, I want to be the trifecta of those things. I want to make sure that I'm the right organization for you, because along the way, this definitely gets stressful. Deadlines are going to be a jeopardy. You're spending your hard-earned money and you're watching it go out the door. I don't have the concept of time and materials. You do not pay an hourly rate here. I have no fixed price for the thing that we do. You subscribe to an engineering motion and start getting used to paying a staff. That's how businesses work. You don't just pay time and materials. Even if you have contractors, you're typically consistently feeding those people work. And so a business has to get used to operating with overhead, and that's how you subscribe to Cause of a Kind. I stand you up a work stream, and that team is going to consistently pursue your goal one-on-one. If that isn't right for somebody, if my model at its base is not right for somebody, let's just shake hands, walk away before we even get started. Now, if that model feels right and you can see like, okay, I'm going to amortize my budget over the course of 6 months, 12 months, multiple years, cool. Like, let's get into the next step of it. A lot of this has to do with personality. If you don't trust me, and particularly my partner, to be your solutions architect, if you think that you understand the domain better than us, we're already off to a bad start. Now, I don't claim to be a master of every problem that comes my way. I'm a master of solving that problem with technology, with software. And so that trust has to be there. And again, we can keep going, but there's just a checklist of disqualifying factors that we go through very organically through my sales and prospecting process that distills to like, hey, this is like going to be a great partnership. And I can honestly say we very rarely miss. Maybe under 5% of the time in all 9 years, we very rarely misalign with an organization. But I pass on stuff all the time. Even if it seems like it would be like perfectly the dream project on paper, sometimes it's just not right. And you can do that from a position of power when you're profitable. There have been days and years in the past where we were not profitable, where we got debt up to our eyeballs, where you make bad decisions because you got the wet blanket of business over your face. And so you take every deal that comes across your desk, but you realize now you're sacrificing your sanity, you're sacrificing your values, you're sacrificing your people. I've lost people because a project was just too overwhelming, and that's not why they were here. And so from a position of power, one of the most important things that I can implore to a business, even a startup business, is get to revenue and, dare I say, profitability as fast as possible. Because once you're profitable and your ends are met, you can make all sorts of decisions from a responsible place.
So Justin, one thing that I think would help us out, and I'd love to get your perspective on it. So we are a company that started off more as a service offering. So the original business for me was I was doing a lot of sales consulting. I was working with corporate companies on their sales infrastructure, how to build teams, how to hire teams, how to train them, those types of things. Matt and I came together about 1.5 years ago, and we offered staffing solutions. So we offered the ability, especially in the real estate industry, which is where we started, which was to say, hey, we have access to talent who's willing to work. You guys need help in virtual assistant aspect. So we provided virtual assistant to real estate customers of ours. We quickly gained quite a big following on that, but we obviously identified the fact that there is probably a very quick need to shift into voice AI being a potential replacement to the value offering of an outsourced virtual assistant. You know, when you're trading resources and, you know, kind of opposite of what you talk about, what we provide is that low cost value asset that is hard to replace financially, but does a lot of things that people aren't willing to do, but it's able to be swallowed because it's not a premium product, right? We're now shifting to have more of a product that we offer instead of a service, in addition to a few other things. So as a guy who focuses on the marketing side of marketing a product and a service solution, what are some advice you'd offer to somebody like us who's going from service to product as the primary foundation?
You know, I wrestled with this for years because how we started is not how we are today. And originally we were purely service too. The only thing that I did is I productized the service.
Right.
And so that's a big suggestion is like whatever your ethos is as a business, if you're a service provider, let's say you're a lawyer, you know how many lawyers get this light bulb go off when I go to networking events? That instead of charging an hourly rate, call it $550 an hour, charge me a monthly membership of, let's say, $1,000 an hour. And how many times, Matt, do you talk to your lawyer a month? Like, I could go 6 months without ever mentioning his name.
Right.
But yet I'm paying $1,000 a month just to keep him on the schedule. I do this with my CPA. I pay him $1,200 a month just to keep him on the schedule. And there's things included in this package. He could charge me time and materials. He could charge me by the call. But I'm in this mindset. I come from SaaS. You know, I come from large enterprise SaaS, MarTech and FinTech. And so when I watch them establish their customer experience, it was multi-year contracts. It's MRR. It's annual recurring revenue. It's things that can be projected. It's things that can be protected. And so that's what I took out of my own book from my career is even though I'm selling a service, I have productized those services. So I sell something called month to month. It's a product, a registered product. And that month to month is a work stream of designers, developers, project managers, architects, whatever I'm establishing a little team for. And that's your subscription. You watch as much Netflix that month as you want. My hedge is we'll start hot. you're going to cool down a little bit. You'll have a hot month. In a couple months, we'll cool down a little bit. And so the amortization, the balancing act of that over a period of time ends up working out to a very highly profitable experience. I also know where my people's high water mark is. So if I've dedicated an individual to you, let's say his salary is $10K a month, but I charge $17,500 per month for the whole package, I know exactly where my profitability is. I know if he's working full time to this and can't take on another project, that one customer better cover his entire salary plus benefits. Sure. So the math equation of running a business, being able to forecast, being able to protect from a contractual perspective, all of that stuff has become wildly predictable, wildly forecastable. And so there was a time where I had no idea what was coming. Attrition would come. I couldn't see it coming. I had no way to protect myself against it. I would do time and materials for the product and service. I'd be net 90 on collections. Now, you pay the day the invoice comes out because this is just a subscription. It's just like Netflix. Watch as much of Netflix as you want this month. And so I have simply just productized the service offering, and I have different products sitting on the shelf. And when somebody comes to me, let's say it's a website, I do always on website management. That's a product. You pay a fixed rate per month, use as much of it as you want, but I'm confident that you're going to run out of shit to do. You could do something which is like a disco week, or we call it a disco sprint now because sometimes it exceeds a week. It's a flat rate for that, and it's just designed to understand what the complexity of the problem is, make architecture decisions, make tech stack decisions. I've just productized that discovery process, and I'm confident that that cost far exceeds how much time it takes to complete that task. So that is just, I have lots of products sitting on the shelf, and when somebody comes to me like a grocery store, what's the best product for that moment?
Okay. And how would you suggest that in that productizing, how do you market it? I mean, like, I know that we've talked about a couple of things that you market. I mean, we do, the standard branding aspect of marketing, website. We have a website that we custom built. We have socials. We got a lot of content that goes out on socials. We've taken courses and have learned quite a bit about social advertising to be able to get that out into certain places. Not sure that's the big part of what our business is going to be. We have a lot of different areas and avenues, but as you product-sized your service, is there things that worked and didn't work in regards to being able to get the traction?
It's such a good question. I've tried everything, and this is like my entire professional career too. So like I really, what plagues me is the things that I have had success professionally on don't necessarily work for your own business, right? That's just like one of the plagues of running a business itself, is like just because it works somewhere else doesn't necessarily mean it's going to work for you or for the next business that you encounter. So there's three things, right? There's branding, marketing, and advertising, and those kind of work in unison. Advertising, you're constrained. You're constrained by cash. So if you find the thing through a marketing campaign that you want to pour cash onto from an advertising perspective, awesome. But lots of folks do that backwards. They want to pour cash into God knows what and just artificially inflate themselves. But the goal is to not spend that cash indefinitely. The goal is to convert that to something organic, something real, something to where you have true fans, to where it doesn't cost money for the acquisition. It costs maybe money for retention and continuous value delivery. And that's like a better, healthier place to be. Maybe it's like an upsell perspective. I actually focus on brand. I do very little advertising. I spend almost no money on distribution. I focus a little bit on marketing, but when I focus on marketing, it's to double down on a brand concept. So my latest thing right now has to do with no bullshit. How much bullshit is in my industry? How many quotes do you have to get? How many big teams in India do you have to talk to? How many designers have to give you this big vision but are not developers themselves and really created something that is so cost prohibitive that you got to take it back for zero? How much lip service do you need to get in this industry? So my latest campaign just has to do with the no bullshit agency. That's a brand strategy. That's not really marketing. I might distribute that across channels organically. The other thing could be just branding in general, could be on the moment of AI. So I'm attacking other brands right now, like the Lovables of the world. And one of my largest and most successful campaigns to date is when you are at the 90-yard mark, your 10th and goal, and you can't ship your big idea, call me. And so some of these things really don't have to do with like a specific marketing campaign. It really has to do with like listening to what's happening in the world right now. It's knowing and believing truly in my core sure that I run one of the best programs on the planet, if not the leanest and most efficient program on the planet for what we do. And so I'm like that delusional confidence that lets me be super, super assertive in how I come to market. It allows me to use curse words in my campaigns. You know, my mom cringes a little bit, but it's real deal. And so when marketing comes into play, I still run the omni-channel strategy on every social media platform you can imagine. I was out last night, 2 nights ago, 10 p.m., going and stapling hand-printed, handmade small billboards to a local coffee shop that gets a queue a mile long of cars. And I'm thinking to myself, well, they're just sitting there twiddling their thumbs waiting for coffee. Who's thinking about the next piece of software or the website that they have to solve? I'm running an omni-channel strategy. I'm super brand heavy. And so for me, the newsletter, the podcast, like I'm everywhere all the time, always on. And it's not necessarily a marketing strategy, it's a brand evangelization strategy.
Now, how much of the stuff do you, on your content, on your marketing, and things like that, are you selling, or are you just educating or speaking about what you do?
I sell very little marketing, if any at all. I have very, very few customers that I sell marketing to. What I do is a lot of education, because I truly believe that founder-led everything at the game that I'm in.
Yeah.
Founder-led everything is the most authentic approach to an organic audience. You're trying to find true fans. When you think about building software, you're really looking for traction, looking for early feedback. I'm not just looking to like explode in the market and then have a cliff.
So Justin, what he's asking though, just to clear up the question, because I think maybe you took it the way that he wasn't asking. When he's saying when you're doing the content, are you just explaining the why you do what you do and giving them all the information you know for free, and then expecting they can just go do it themselves if they want? Or are you saying this is what we do, and then selling them on why you're the solution to the problem that you're exposing?
Yeah, thanks so much for the clarification. You know, it's probably none of that. I am hopeful that when I say something wild, people go to my profile or they'll go to the brand website or something like that, and they'll be like, oh, that's what they do. I'm more interested in your attention.
Gotcha.
Not
so
necessarily
like controversy, like a little bit of controversy out there to bring, because controversy sells. Obviously, that's something we're trying to. You get in front of it, and people are like, oh, they want to click on the negative thing. Not necessarily saying you're negative, but they want to click on the loud negative things versus the positive. So you're garnering that attention first.
Matt, these guys like Justin, we had another podcast with another guy earlier, and I'll send you a message on his name and check him out after this. He's got so much attention right now because he is calling out all of the gurus of sales coaching, and he's being flooded from a lot of negative attention, but a lot of like, oh my God, I can't believe somebody finally said the shit we've been thinking for so many years. And I was telling Matt, like, in my older age, I'm 42 years old, when I was younger, I was that guy, but I was also constrained in the corporate handcuffs.
Of course, I was too.
Now I'm free, but now I'm more docile, and now I'm not willing to ruffle feathers. Now I'm more interested in building professional friends and network and things of value long term. But man, you would have caught me, in my mid-30s, man, I would have been willing to sling it to anybody and everybody and probably cause all this attention. Now, what you're saying, Justin, the attention you get, and then what the guy we talked to earlier is like, I'm going to start throwing off some F-bombs to people. I'm going to start, now I'm not going to, maybe I will, Matt, I don't know, who knows. But Justin, it sounds like it's worked for you.
You know, it's interesting. My most viral post of this week, it was a hilarious real moment that happened on the way to a networking event at 7 o'clock in the morning. I'm in the back of an Uber, and this dude farted and locked the windows. And I was like, am I part of like a skit right now? Am I being pranked? And like, that has nothing to do with what I sell. There's nothing to do with building software. Nothing. What it has to do with is just your moment of your day that I made you laugh. Then you click on who's this funny schmuck, and that generated a lead. That generated multiple leads for us, actually, which I find hilarious. Yeah. And it's people just like going down the rabbit hole of like, who's this talking head? When I go, I don't really talk on, I won't really start an issue with real people. I think everybody's got their own situation. I lead with empathy first, but man, I will go after a brand. Like my big thing right now is I'm going after Lovable, and I'm digging the hot iron into that moment that I know that exists, which is you thought it was fast to go use Gen AI. You thought it was fast to like spin up this idea, but here you are, you've spent the last 2 weeks trying to figure out the last mile of your product, and you can't ship it to production. And so I know that moment exists. And so when I go to social media and I call out the Lovable or the Gen AIs of the world, And I'm like, raise your hand if you can't ship your dream product. Well, call me. I'll help you ship it. Maybe I'll even do it for free because I feel bad for you. That shit goes gangbusters. Again, this is really like, I'm not really talking about my product. I very rarely mention kind of what we do as a professional service. I'm more trying to capture
attention,
a moment. Like, most people are just doom scrolling all day long, doom scrolling, but like, what causes you to stop and look at something? What causes me to have a 40% open rate on my newsletter with 10,000 people subscribed to it? It's because I just say some wild shit in the subject. I give value after value within that newsletter. I'm not offering you a book. I'm not offering you a market insight. I'm offering you like my raw experience of building a business. And hey, here's 4 podcast episodes I recorded this week with other operators. Whatever my marketing avenue is, whatever channel I'm exploiting, if I'm creating blog content, it's in the same vein. We just posted something today talking about how Ruby on Rails is overtaking Python right now. Like that, I'm not selling you my service. I'm just expressing my expertise and saying something wild that Ruby on Rails is going to overtake Python, which is like the most legendary language in the community. So it's more about being contrarian and original and authentic. And I'm very much taking on the true essence of how can I influence you for your attention.
I want to ask you though, I want to go back to a little bit because, you're hiring American talent and most of your people are American. Americans aren't cheap by any means. And so obviously you're just deciding to go with quality over quantity or cost effectiveness. And so I'm wondering, back at the beginning, you and your best friend here are starting this. And you're going to hire people, I'm guessing, or is it just you guys running everything and your best friend building everything himself on the technology side where you're selling it? Or are you hiring people on the project basis? I mean, how are you starting this up? Are you getting the customers first or the team first?
Good question. The moment in time where it flipped, I'll tell you about. Originally, it was just me and Mike. We were moonlighting this against our careers. I had an illustrious career. He was lead engineer at the Knot Worldwide. I was traveling 200 plus days a year to go to the most recognizable brands in the world. Like, you name it, it was a customer of mine, legitimately. And I was moonlighting this little business on the side. Cause of a Kind did not start actually as a software development or web development agency. We actually started trying to build a small piece of software. I wanted to build what you guys might know as Omaze. It was one of a kind experiences mapped with causes that we cared about. So at the time, this business was born in the surf lineup. We're both surfers. And I was like, what would somebody pay charitably to have a surf session with Kelly Slater? And that money doesn't go to Kelly Slater, it goes to the Surfrider Foundation. And like, boom, idea is born. And that's an easy marketplace platform play. You get like professionals of the world. Matt, you and me are golfers. Like, what would you give to play a round of golf right now with Bryson DeChambeau or Scotty Scheffler or whoever's your favorite of the day? And knowing that cash from an auction perspective goes to a charity that you care about. And so that's a very clear software play. Somebody beat us to the market, which is Omaze, and that's like a multi-billion-dollar publicly traded company. And like, so we took that idea and I pivoted to, guess what, an e-commerce apparel brand. So still trying to build software, still trying to build web experience for ourselves, but that's why I'm so brand heavy. Like, everything in my life is Cause of a Kind decorated. I wear no other product. And so that's the origin story of the evolution of Cause of a Kind. During that process, when you figure out, shit, apparel is really freaking hard to scale, really expensive to sustain, friends and family started asking us if we would work on their website, if we would work on their piece of software. So during this moonlighting phase, it was just me and Mike trying to find our way. There was a moment though, we got 2 major deals that came through our desk, like major. It was Lives and Livelihood Fund, which is Melinda and Bill Gates's non-for-profit organization, bringing services and solution to Africa, and iFit, which is a Nordic track company. And those two accounts, multi-six-figure opportunities, came across our desk same time from the same third-party source. And we both looked at each other and we were like, is this the moment? Like, do we leave our jobs right now? Is this the moment for Mike to do this work, to build simultaneously? You cannot have a full-time gig, not let alone be the lead engineer on a Fortune company. And so that moment, we didn't leave our jobs. We hired. And that's one of the biggest mistakes that we ever made. What we did instead is I went about 6 months building that project, sustaining a team that was costing us about $100,000 a month. And come to find out towards the end of that, you come out of the gate with the hot start problem. I talk about this all the time. That hot start problem is a plague for businesses. And typically it happens with folks with network, which I had. And that's what brought those deals to us. And so when you start super hot, you don't really realize that pipeline runs businesses. And so what happens when you're carrying a staff at $100,000 a month and those 2 projects ends, you still got to pay that staff. And I had no extra work for them. So what did I do? I took out a small business loan. I leveraged my home. Quite literally, both of us looked at each other and said, well, maybe instead of, leaving our jobs, we'll just take out a small business loan because the next deal has to come, right? Well, January 1st, I think it was 2022, maybe? It's not even that long ago. January 1st, 2022, the both of us decided to put both feet in the sun and come into Cause of a Kind full time. Still carrying bloat. I was still carrying a staff. But at that point, I had figured out pipeline. We had a steady stream of customers. That's all before we figured out this monthly recurring revenue model. Yep. So all of this is an evolution. And so where does talent density come into play? When I originally hired that talent, it was a combination. It was hourly contractors. It was W-2s. It was onshore. It was offshore. It was using third-party agencies. And the one thing that we saw straight out of the gate was talent density outperforms the junior from wherever you are 100% of the time for an absolute fraction of the cost. So while somebody may cost, let's say, $150 an hour, what he can do with that hour, he or she can do with that hour in comparison to a junior that takes 15 hours at $10 an hour, it's the same amount of money, but what I can accomplish with 10 hours in a master is extraordinary. They're also self-sufficient. They're client service focused. They have a sales mind. They have problem and solution oriented. They work well with others. They have creative ideas. So when you're investing in talent density, the price of that is almost irrelevant because what can I do with that level of talent? How many more projects can I take on? They can carry a book of business. They can have 5 or 6 different projects in motion at the same time. And so that's a learning that we had along the way. I really did not want to have this massive team. I only have a team of 9 guys right now. And we're doing a few $1 million a year. That's cool with me for right now. I did not want to build a business where I'm removed from the day-to-day. I have way too many bodies to worry about. I know agency owners that have 400, 1,000 employees. That just isn't for me. That's I'm not like that. That's not the type of operator that I want it to be. So
we're different, and we're different in that sense, but we are the same in a lot of ways. And one of the things that I applaud you for, which I think that every successful entrepreneur has gone through, is they've pivoted when they know they needed to pivot, and they didn't make excuses, and they're like, oh, what my idea for Omaze, if they beat me to it, Omaze beat me to it, I'm done, hands up, we'll just go back to our 9-to-5 jobs and move on. No, you guys kept pivoting till you found the opportunity for it. So I think that's really important for people to understand, is that it doesn't matter if your first idea isn't what it comes to, because you just keep moving on from that. Me and Matt are in a position right now where we have pivoted our entire business, or was virtual assistant business. We realized, I heard a guy named Pace Morby, who's in my industry, I don't know if you know him or not, but he was talking about his virtual assistant company when he said a couple years ago he got an offer for $10 million to buy it, and he was like, no, I think we can grow this bigger. AI comes out, he can't sell a business for more than $1 million right now.
Totally, I get it.
In that second. And so we understood, hey, all right, so we have a couple options here. We can try and run this as virtual assistants until they're no longer relevant anymore and then we're out of business, or we switch it to what it needs to be. And in the real estate field where I'm at, AI, people in our industry have no problems adopting new technology in order to make things more efficient, faster, and better. So it was no-brainer for us to move into something that would help out with that. So we made that decision, we moved forward, and we did that. And the other part of what we're in the same thing that you're going through right now, which is talent density and finding the right people. Right now, we hired a bunch of generalists and people who came on who were just good workers and loyal people that came on and just were ahead for the mission, and we're just wearing many different hats and trying to get us to where we need to go. Now we hit this spot where it's all right, we've hit the spot now. Now we need specialists to come in, because now you need somebody who can take this team of people who are ready to go and move them in a direction me and Matt aren't fit to move them in, because we don't know this industry. We can either spend hours of our life trying to learn something like marketing or learn technology, learn AI and learn how to code and all that stuff, or we find a specialist that can come in, that knows it, that can move us faster towards the end goal. So I think that what you're saying is, I would love to run a team where I'm not in the day-to-day. I love that part of it. I can just handle the managers and we work on the growth of the business while you're in it. So
He's still wouldn't find time to play golf, though. I'll tell you that much. It has been an evolution for us. And it's been an evolution that I'm excited that the running we're going to. And just to give you a background, Justin, you know, when Matt and I started, we were, and I think it's important that you have to run the segment of the business that eventually you're going to hand off. I mean, there was a period where it was just you and your partner, and you guys had to know it, learn it, be able to explain every part of it before you could eventually hand it off to other people to do that. And we first did that in the real estate business. I took on a major client, and they asked me to build some out-the-box outsourced BDC company for the automotive space. I didn't want to do it at all, Justin. I didn't want to do it, but the money was too good, and I wanted to help out a friend who asked me for a favor, and I've been doing it for the past year, and I probably made the mistake and came to the realization of this in the past couple of months that I spent so much time managing that job, I wasn't able to actually grow the business because I was managing that business. And I think that both Matt and I agree that our value is not in running the business, it's in building the business and growing it. I think that both of us are idea guys, we're execution, we're not scared of change. We're very gut instinctual things. The problem we had is with the team we had around us, they could help us manage the business, but they couldn't take over the business. So we had to now I had to bring in a BDC expert to put next to me to ultimately run that business. We've had to bring in an AI expert to help us identify that. We've actually partnered with an outside company, somebody we had on this podcast, which I'm going to expand on in a second, that helped us learn and understand some of the major gaps in regards to what we were making a mistake of in building an AI product. We're in the process of bringing in a CMO and a person who's like an equity-based partner to help us on marketing, because I have a marketing team and I think the marketing team's pretty good, but I'm not a marketer. You're a marketer. I'm a seller. You're a seller. But I'm not a seller and a marketer. I'm a seller. I don't know the marketing side. So I told Matt, I was like, I'm just going to just dive in and learn everything I need to know about marketing. I think it'll benefit me. He's like, no, don't waste your time. You're more valuable other places. Let's bring in a marketing partner to help us do the things, who's already done the things you want to do. So one of the areas
I told him, I was like, by the time you become an expert in marketing's already advanced 5 years
too. And I know that you do this too. And so I'd love to pick your brain on maybe different perspectives. And this is where I would like us to maybe have a little bit of a disagreement here, and I'm good with it, and I'm comfortable with it. And I know by talking to you now for a couple minutes that you're comfortable with it too. We've found the podcast to be probably one of the most beneficial, fruitful things in a variety of different reasons, okay? And I don't know why anybody of influence in every business doesn't run a podcast. Now, I struggle with it. You might not have struggled with it because it seems like you're probably a little bit better at self-promotion than I am. It does not come natural to me. I was not a guy who would be on social media. I didn't self-promote. I wasn't there until I ran a business and I realized I had to put my person in front, because what people are buying, at least the beginning part, they're buying me. So if they're not, like, they're buying who I am, what I've done, the mistakes I've made, the things I can do to help them learn from the mistakes I've made. The podcast originally was us just to be able to have more content we could put out there where it was just an organic, long-form conversation. I know you have a podcast that does a similar thing. Secondarily, we wanted to have an opportunity to learn from people that have walked down a road that we've not yet walked down, like what we're learning from you today here, Justin. We found that it was a great sales mechanism too, and I've got another podcast, it's not this, that I would say about 50 to 60% of the people we end up doing business with them in some capacity. Totally. And it's not that that's the intention behind the podcast, but that is the outcome of the podcast. And so when you're somebody who's out there and you have a level of influence, I don't know why everybody doesn't do a podcast. Why do you? Why did the original reason, and then what have you learned after starting it?
I love this, because counter to what you expect me to say, I was super hesitant for a very long time to put myself on camera. And I might come off maybe as a little bit of an extrovert, but I talk about this all the time on my own podcast. I absolutely have social anxiety. I absolutely have to work myself up to walk into a networking event.
I call myself the what's the phrase they gave me the other day, Matt? What was it? Sucks now. This sucks. Yeah, I'm the same way. People think because I'm very outspoken that I'm an extrovert. No, I'm very introverted, but I'm very outspoken. In small settings, I'm the life of the party in that way, but I'm very introverted in that way. So yeah, sorry.
I fully hear you. I've become a chameleon, right? I am masterful at not letting anybody see me sweat. But if we're being authentic and I'm keeping it real, you ask my wife, sometimes I'm shitting a brick before even a family event where it's cool, so I contend with that. So bringing it back to the podcast, it took me a really long time. It took my partner being dude, we have to be in that moment. And he's like, dude, create it. You don't have to ship it. You don't have to ever press send or publish. Just create it. Let's see how it goes. And so the original podcast I created because I run a startup studio. I have founders that are coming through our program with no marketing, with no exposure, but they have amazing stories. It's usually people that are like leaving a career behind or found a little gap in their expertise and like want to solve it with software. That's a really cool story where like entrepreneurship was never really part of the equation. And so I started it by giving this a little bit of a value add. It really had nothing to do with me. I wasn't telling my own stories at that moment. It was like, let me ask you a series of questions, run a little bit of a strategic interview, and give you as the customer, as my customer, a couple of key moments that you can use as your early marketing material. 80 episodes later, just recorded my 80th episode today. Nice. 80 episodes later, it has now become probably the best, most consistent, most reliable top of funnel marketing strategy that I could have ever imagined. So let me ask you guys a question. You're salesmen. Do you guys like receiving cold anything? Cold email, cold DM, cold phone call, cold text? No. It's an essential piece of sales strategy. I understand that. You know, the most successful strategy that I have is the cold DM asking somebody to come on the show.
Podcast. Yep.
There you go. 100% win rate. Like, if they respond, it's 100% win rate. And so now I've put myself in a position where I'm having an hour-long conversation. I'm giving you value first. I'm giving you some comedic relief. I'm helping you to articulate your story. I weave in the fact that I build websites and software, which touches every business owner on the earth. And so for me, I have figured out a way to create this top-of-funnel strategy. I'm giving you 100% value first. The brand is synonymous and in your brain. I put a little money behind your episode to help you get some reach and new audience to support whatever you're building. That's my investment into this relationship. And the amount of times that turns around into, hey, can you help me? Hey, can I like buy an hour of your time? I'm struggling with my current vendor. Or, hey, I saw the work that you guys were doing. I know it's been 6 months since our episode, but like I'm looking at a website redesign or whatever. It's a long tail equation. But what I found to be the most interesting part of this, I'm very much nostalgic. I'm very much a romantic. And so my grandfather was a huge influence in my life. I have one professional piece of work from him, and it's his dissertation, his thesis from his master's degree at Brooklyn College. It's in a drawer over here. It's a 150-page bound book. That's it. And he was a writer. I have tons of his poems. He was a drawer. I have tons of his sketches. The family has all of this material of him as a person, but as a businessman, and he was a businessman for 70 years, I have one piece of professional content. So for me, nostalgically, when I think to my great-grandkids and the amount of content and wisdom that I'm able to share with them, even this clip right here, it will live to the end of the internet. And so for me, self-servingly, this has been my diary. This has been a way for me to, have some chronological order to my growth, to be able to share my entrepreneurial story, to talk about my family, to talk about the trials and tribulations. And now I weave in my own wisdom because I think I'm a hell of an operator at this point. I'm a serial entrepreneur. I got my hat in a bunch of different things. I'm trusted with people's money, with their lives, with their families. Like, I have stuff to share. And so that's probably the bigger picture now, 80 episodes in, is I've kind of drank my own juice and I've listened to the audience, and this is like my journey forward to extraordinary. And when I look back at all of this and the generations after me that look back at all of this, they'll unfold the story in their own way.
That's awesome, man. One of the things that stood out is that, and like me too, I hated being in front of the camera. I still don't like being in front of the camera necessarily, but you put yourself in
to do this shit. It's crazy.
No, but you put yourself in a very uncomfortable position, and you just got through it. And you probably sucked at first, but then you got better and better. And 80 episodes in, you're very good at it. What scares me though, what you just said about how it's on the internet forever. So the way I got used to being on the camera is I'm a nerd, and we sell and trade Pokemon cards and stuff like that because it's fun. It's
me too, brother.
There you go. Let's go. But then, so I've been doing that for a long time, and so one of the ways I got myself out of it, I was so scared of doing it, was I would stream on Whatnot. I would sell on Whatnot, and I would just give away. We made $0 on it. We just gave away everything.
I had a Whatnot conversation the other night on social media.
I'm on it all the time. I just spent like $300 on Spot Gold the other day.
I cannot open the app. It's literally I might start swiping. I can't. No, I got my wife had.
Talk about a good software idea.
It was a great software idea. So that's what we did, and we streamed, and we were terrible the first time we ever did it. And then me and my brother who were doing it, and it was a way to me and my brother to bond because we got really close over this too. We were like, you know what, screw it. We're gonna put on these stupid hats, and we're gonna get in front of this camera, and we're just gonna do it. And we did it so many times. We did it so constantly that I just stopped caring hearing about it, and I just started going on the camera. So when me and Matt decided to do the podcast, it wasn't something that I had to necessarily get used to. When I get used to just doing the podcast and then understanding where our avenue was in the podcast, we did what you did, which was start up by interviewing, because that's pretty much a simple thing you do. Like, all right, let's come up with these questions, let's do like an interview style. But then we realized quickly, like, we would rather have conversations and make it light. And so as we've gotten better at it now, as we pivoted, our strategy within our podcast is turned into that, where it's conversations, and then we end up just asking, like, what can we do to help you out? Because if we can just help you in some way, shape, or form, we're thinking in long term, Justin might, 6 years from now, you're like, hey, I'm tired of American talent, I want VAs or an AI voice.
Sure.
Something like that will happen. And help you out as much as possible when it comes back. And I think that the content that we want to create, I tell Matt all the time, what I'm working on is a course of wholesaling, teach people how to wholesaling. I'm gonna do it for free. Like, I will not ask for anything. I'm just gonna give it all away for free, and if one day I have something to sell, then maybe we'll buy it because I helped you out. But the way this works and this content that we're doing and we create is it gets us in front of people. If we can provide value to people and they can trust that, hey, we're actually there to help us out, then at some point they're going to look into what you do. And if you find out what you do and it helps them out, then there you go.
It's an avenue of legitimacy, because when people do their due diligence on you, I share no portfolio for the work that I do, if you can imagine that. Like, somebody asked me for a portfolio, I say, maybe we're not the best business for you, because I hung my hat on doing this professionally for the last 9 years, and what I made for somebody else, you might hate. So why would I show you anybody else's work? Just trust that I'm no bullshit. And so what ends up happening is I have courses on the internet too, one of which might be really interesting to you, Matt Uber. Like, it's called Inception Marketing. And it's how to run a marketing strategy for absolutely $0 to test whether an idea should live. So that course, I don't sell it. It's available on YouTube. But when I have this type of a conversation, it becomes a legitimate point. Like, now it's another piece of material that I've created in the world. And so I implore you to build this educational course on wholesaling. I've tried these platforms like the Kajabis or the schools. Like, that was a distraction from running my business, because if you're going to do that right, that's a full-on business, is running a course and being an educator and building a community. That's a full-on business in itself. So what I figured out is I have a lot to say. I have a lot of lessons. I've got a lot of education, a lot of things to share. It's all long-form content. It all comes back in the long-tail way. Mm-hmm. And so I don't know what avenue is going to bring in the next potential customer or employee or partner or whatever opportunity comes my way, but that all increases my surface area for luck. And so my relationship with the camera is different. Like, you guys, like me, have probably been on Zoom calls since Zoom was invented and introduced in the professional sector. What the hell is the difference? None. So, like, I'm the guy just pressing start on the call and like, okay, so we're gonna save this episode and it's gonna live publicly on YouTube. That's the difference. And so I just started creating a bunch of freaking content. And I still, to this day, have stuff in draft mode that will likely never get published unless I find the guts to go all in. But that's kind of my secret, is like, not every episode has to be published. If you're not proud of it, you don't have to ship it. But what's the difference between taking a call on Zoom?
Right.
Yeah, and one of the things that it's so crazy, Justin, you and I have come to very similar conclusions from very different paths in a lot of things. And as we come to right now, as we're recording this, it's October 16th, so we're coming to the end of this year, right? And around to the end of last year is when Matt and I started this podcast. And one of the big realizations I came to is a similar thing as you is, I'm 42. I've got a 5-year-old daughter, a son that'll be 2 years old. And, I hope that I live long and am able to impact their life. But if something happened to me today, they can at least now know, they can hear their dad's voice, their dad's opinion, their dad's thoughts. And then that prompted me, my mom and my father, who are not together and haven't been together since I was 7, came and visited me around last year, and I interviewed them. And I haven't. It's not a public podcast, but it's an internal podcast. And I committed to them and to me that I'm going to interview them every year for the rest of their life, so that I have that historical memory of me challenging them, not challenging them, but getting to know stories about them as a kid and getting to know thting that maybe I didn't know and getting them to share that. And I'll have the memories of my parents as long as I'm cognitively here, but my kids might not. My parents live in Virginia. I live in Dallas. They get to see my parents once a year. But to be able to create that conversation, and then one of the other things that I intend to do was, when my daughter gets to a certain age, let her interview me, and then to interview her as well, and then keep that as historical relevancy for us, so I can have that database of me interviewing her about what's going on in her life, what she's thinking about, what she's doing, and make that a yearly thing too. And I would have never came up with that idea if we didn't originally create the content for us, but the value of how this content lives on forever, I think is so valuable, as husbands, as fathers, as sons, those types of things. I think that's a part of it that I'm excited to be able to just have for myself and for my kids.
My kids will one day open up and see me wearing a stupid hat selling Pokemon cards, getting excited because I open up Pokemon.
They will close their computer in shame. And well, Justin, look, I want to be as respectful of your time as possible. We've been doing this for about an hour. I think we could probably talk all day, every day. Justin, just to kind of wrap everything up, what's any final words you want to say? How can everybody find you? Let's wrap it up here.
I love that. I'm as you guys have said, I'm quite public. I'm definitely everywhere, every platform that you could possibly think of. I'm at Cousin Justin, everybody's favorite cousin. So you find me on any platform that you would like. I'll bring your dose of optimism on a daily basis. I'm always finding something funny, something contrarian to share. I'm most active on LinkedIn, and I'll tell you why. LinkedIn for me was the least barrier of entry. And so that's where I spend a lot of my time. I really was not creative enough to go and create short content for Instagram for a really long time. Facebook really bored me, and too many friends from high school that I had to intersect with, too many family members giving me opinions about what I should say and shouldn't say. Twitter, I could never really figure out how to crack that code. I'm not that punchy. I'm a long form guy. So LinkedIn is my muse. I'm there constantly. That has changed my life. That has driven millions of dollars into my business, new relationships, new events and opportunities. So find me on LinkedIn, but I'm also on every other channel at Cousin Justin. I also run Strictly from Nowhere. I feature founders in their journey from zero to market. It's expanded into entrepreneurs, operators, C-suite individuals, and I'm really interested in that inception experience for amazing operators. And everybody's got an awesome journey. And so I've become really, really passionate about that show. It's what consumes a whole heck of a lot of my time outside of running Cause of a Kind. Last but not least is my partner and I are the founder of Long Island Technologists. I was super tired of commuting into Manhattan after I left my job behind to go to networking events. So I figured I would start my own. And so we have longislandtechnologists.com. We run a meetup for the local tech community here on Long Island every 45 days. We go back to the origin of where Cause of a Kind started, and Mike and I signed some paperwork at a local coffee shop that I helped build with my friend Arsalan. It's called Flux Coffee. And it's my goal to just bring community together, make people feel like freaking superheroes, because like this conversation for today, the only person standing between you and forward to extraordinary is you. And so that's my sign off for today, is I wish you to forward to extraordinary, and whatever you touch, I hope turns into.
What a great sign off. Let's go. I mean, hype. Ready? I'm ready to go buy some coffee.
Hell yeah.
I don't even drink coffee. So.
Ironically, you don't drink coffee maybe because it's too bitter. So I just interviewed a guy. His name is Hank Watt. He's the founder of Nature's Wild Berry. He was on Shark Tank, did a deal with Lori and Mark Cuban. And this is the solution to if you don't like coffee. It removes the bitter and allows you to taste the notes of coffee, sign the bitterness. So just funny that you should say that, and I don't know if that's your problem.
Or you could just grow up and be a man one day, grow some hair on your chest, and actually just drink coffee like a real man.
That works too, man.
Anyway, we'll cut that part off. Anyways, if you guys got anything from this, please like, share, subscribe, comment, hit the bell icon. We will tag Justin and all of his social media that we can, so you guys can reach out to him. I'm sure you guys got something from this like we did. Justin, thank you so much for your time on this. We appreciate it, man.
It's a pleasure. Thanks, fellas.